Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. And now that college football season is over with, except for the college football playoffs, regular season games, we're dwindling down the amount of games. We're going to start doing a mock draft a week. These are fun. They introduce new names, and it's just a way to kind of brainstorm fit with teams and go from there. But James is out sick today, so I have called on a backup. Not really a backup. He's a starter in his own regard. I've called on some help here. CBS Sports' JP Acosta is back on the podcast. JP, you are like a regular guest at this point now. This is what, the fourth time you've
Yeah,
been
I
on the
think like
podcast?
third, fourth.
Yeah.
I feel like the middle innings reliever. I'm
Yeah,
not
that's a
the
good.
starter. I'm not the closer. I'll come in, pitch a few good innings, just kind of hold water until we get to the important guys.
I think no, you're more the setup guy. You are the important guy that leads up to the closer. I would say I'd throw you in as a setup guy there. But we are gonna do some trades here. Really, probably just one trade at the top here. As the draft order stands right now, the Giants are picking first, and they just drafted a quarterback in the first round who they traded up for. So common sense here, things can happen when you bring in a new head coach and probably a new GM. It could get a little funky there. The Giants could decide. That would be a steep stretch to do though. JP and I have decided that it makes most sense probably for the Jets to come up to one. And JP, if you want to chop that up a little bit, your reasoning for that as well.
Yeah, the biggest reason is because when you look at the Giants and you look at what they've done with Jackson Dart, of course, he still is a flawed quarterback. This is not saying he is a perfect quarterback by any means. The concussion history and the concussions in general are just very scary when it comes to a player that plays the way he does. But he's done enough to at least give the Giants the choice to say, we can give him his rookie contract to figure it out. You can tell him to ease up on some of the leading with the head. But because of that, and because of just how much ammo the Jets have, and honestly, there's a chance the Jets, with the offensive talent that they have, I believe in Tanner Inkstrand as a play caller, I think there's a chance this thing goes from really bad to really good if you just get a normal quarterback in there.
I don't disagree with you at all. We also decided JP as the guest of honor will get odd numbers to the first overall pick here as well. But JP, let's stick with picks 5 and 18. Don't go into 2027 at all. Again, the Jets have 2 first rounders this year and 2 first rounders next year. The Browns have 2 first rounders this year as well. But that second first rounder is dwindling as the Jaguars keep stacking games here. So the Jets definitely have more ammo. So common sense says let's give the pick to the Jets. We'll just do 5 and 18 just for clarity purposes here. That gives the Giants a second first round pick this year as well. So JP, that begs the question then, who will be starting for the New York Jets in 2026 here?
I'm going to go with Fernando Mendoza, quarterback from Indiana. I just think that the way that he plays within structure, I think the pre and post snap processing that he shows, the way I describe him is that he's just a professional quarterback. Like, he knows how to do the 1 to 2 to 3. And in a lot of ways, you can say that he's similar to how Jared Goff runs the Lions offense. And because of the connections that the Jets have with Inkstrand, Aaron Glenn, and all the stuff they want to be offensively, getting a guy like Mendoza back there, I think that can really raise the floor and ceiling of that offense.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. And the Jets, for all their faults, for all of why am I blanking on the former GMs? Joe Douglas's faults. Well, I guess this past draft wasn't Joe Douglas, but man, hitting on 2 first-round offensive tackles is a good situation to drop a rookie quarterback into with Fashanu and Membu. They hit on both those guys. Those guys are studs. So I think that's a great situation to drop a rookie quarterback into. You add one more wide receiver in there with Garrett Wilson as well. You're sitting kind of pretty. That makes the decision here at 2 with the Raiders really easy. The Geno Smith thing has not gone well. I don't know if if the coaching staff is going to survive 1 year either. Part of them hasn't already. So, but I think that's a situation. It gets a little stickier though with them too, because they have a lot of offensive line needs and they don't have any wide receivers. The one wide receiver who was producing is now a Jacksonville Jaguar. So it's a situation where you could say this team isn't even a quarterback away. But we've seen some situations where dropping a functional, professional, clean, crisp, accurate quarterback, even into situations with bad offensive linemen, has really changed things. Like I think you could go back and say there are parts of the Texans' offensive line that are playing better than you expected them to. Ed Ingram, I think, is a solid example of that. But CJ Stroud's ability to get the ball out and distribute at a high level masks a lot of issues along that front as well. And I think that's exactly what Dante Moore could do as well and what he's done at Oregon because Isaiah World hasn't lived up to the hype as the transfer portal left tackle. Alex Harkey is not a very good tackle at right tackle. Dante Moore has mitigated some of that as well at Oregon. So, again, lethally accurate, as professional of a pocket passer as they make them. Very smooth thrower, foundationally sound mechanically wise. So the top two quarterbacks are going 1 and 2 in this draft. I think that's how we're trending. With
Yeah.
how many quarterback needy teams there are, and these two guys being the clear front runners.
Yeah, with the way that this draft is starting to shape up quarterback wise, you just don't see any reason for anybody to kind of get a little froggy and jump for a guy with outside of that top two. So I think if the Raiders are able to get Dante Moore, who since you said CJ Stroud, every time I watch Dante Moore, I'm just like, yeah, I get it. And I get
Same
just
body type, same everything. It's just
the pinpoint ball placement. I compare CJ Stroud to like a professional golfer with the way he can get the ball up and down onto the green without the ball rolling. I think Dante Moore is the exact same way of getting balls up and down over defenders. And it just makes sense to, even if you don't want to subject him to the hits with that Raiders offensive line in that shape, you can still potentially keep Geno Smith as sort of just that bridge to let Dante Moore come in. But I think Dante Moore could play right away if you wanted him to. So it just makes sense to go ahead and get the guy now, especially if this is going to be a completely new not even GM, but head coach, offensive coordinator combo.
yeah, I agreed. All right, you're back on the clock here. Tennessee Titans, 3rd overall.
Oof. This is a rough spot to be in if you're Tennessee because your top two needs, you could argue, are receiver and offensive line. And I don't know if I'm comfortable taking either of those at 3. So I'm going to go with Ruben Bain here.
All
I
right.
think getting some more pass rush help alongside Jeffrey Simmons, who has played at an all-pro level this season. I think getting some more juice on that defensive line. And although Bain is sort of a unique prospect with his measurables, got a little shorter arms, 6'2", but he just wins with power. And I think that you're seeing a lot of guys enter the draft now who generate speed to power at such a high level. That's the things that translates when we talk about NFL pass rushers. If you're able to generate speed to power immediately, you will play in the NFL or at least have a high floor. So I think Ruben Bain, just if he's not going to be a superstar, he's going to be a high floor player for the Titans.
Yeah. I've dwindled down my love for Ruben Bain a little bit, but by far, I think by far is maybe too exaggeratory. He's the best edge rusher in the class in a class that I don't think is a really strong edge class. So no disagreements there. You don't feel comfortable going wide receiver this early, but I do. And when you look at the Cleveland Browns wide receiver room, and with both of these quarterbacks off the board here, man, this feels like a no-brainer to go get a receiver, and they need somebody who can frickin' be a ball winner. I mean, you look at that wide receiver room, and it's a bunch of guys who can't catch the football. I mean, Jerry Jeudy dropped a touchdown that turned into an interception on Sunday. Cedric Tillman is a ball winner, but you would like somebody a little more intimidating. And then outside of that, it's a island of misfit toys. So Cleveland Browns here, 4th overall. We're gonna go with the guy who's used to playing in Ohio weather, making a short trip up I-71 north here. We're gonna go with Carnell Tate to the Cleveland Browns, who I have a negligible grade between Tyson and Tate, but when I look at Tyson's injury history, and when I look at the need for an actual like dominant ball winner, I think that separates the two of them between Tyson and Tate in this situation.
His growth this season has been one of the coolest things to watch as someone who follows the draft and evaluates prospects, because going into the season, I was sort of like, I see it, but I don't like I understand the talent and understand the hype behind Carnell Tate. And this season, he has become a dominant player in every facet of the game. I think just the focus has improved so much this season. He doesn't drop passes. He gets down the field in a hurry. I think he's going to immediately become any quarterback's best friend, whatever happens with the quarterback spot in Cleveland. But I just think that's going to be a really smooth and really smart pick for a Browns franchise that has sort of knocked these past 2 drafts. If you get Tate here, you sort of knock it out the park.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a team that desperately needs to hit on young players on rookie contracts, hitting back-to-back years and having the assets to do that for the first time in three years is necessary. All right. The New York Giants, after trading down from 1 here.
I'm again, this is another team that I'm very fascinated with because they also need receiver and offensive
Mhm.
line. And I still just don't feel comfortable taking offensive line here, considering, the best tackle on the board might be Spencer Fano, and he might be a guard. Francis Magnoa also might be a guard. Magnoa sort of fits the physicality and the brand of what Joe Shane wants to mold this offense into. But when you think about what Jackson Dart has missed, is an outside receiver. And I
Mhm.
understand some of the injury issues. I'm going to go Jordan Tyson here. I just think the grace and the
Mhm.
body control that Jordan Tyson plays with, I think that's going to play so well on the outside, especially with the way that Wandale Robinson's played in the slot. You have Theo Johnson, who has played well for them. They need somebody that can win and move with fluidity on the outside. So I think Tyson here comes in and is Jackson Dart's best friend.
I love it. That brings up the Arizona Cardinals here. Oh boy. The Cardinals need a quarterback. Kyler's gone. They need a right tackle as well, but again, do we feel comfortable picking Fano here? If I'm going strictly off my board, there's quite a few players I have it, and by quite a few, a handful. Um, Fano's 10 on my board, so it wouldn't be an overly outrageous leap here to take him. There's part of me that wants to send Arvell Reese here, but I think there's part of me that like the Cardinals fans would hate me if I took kind of like, is he a linebacker or is he an edge rusher player here for them after they did the same thing with the Tulsa linebacker who I'm blanking on, Zaven
David
Collins.
Collins.
Yeah, with Zaven Collins. So, have you seen their linebacker room recently on
Yeah,
paper?
it is
Yeah.
Mac Wilson and Akeem Davis Gaither.
Yeah, it's not great. So, what I can do for the Cardinals here is take a linebacker who's actually a linebacker. You might think that 6th overall is too early for a linebacker, but Sonny Styles, in my opinion, I'm trying to think of the linebackers from the past few years, is probably the best linebacker prospect going back to 2022, 2020. I mean, Micah Parsons was 2021, right? Who was
Yeah,
drafted technically as a linebacker.
he was 21,
2022?
right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think 22.
Uh, I love Sonny Styles. Won 6'4", 240, legitimate linebacker body type in a league that has the need to get back to that because we're back to running the damn ball. He punches blockers so hard. His pad level's a little high. I mean, he's 6'4", fine, but it doesn't disrupt his ability to drive through contact. He punches blockers at a high level, sheds blocks at a high level, is an A-plus athlete. And Cardinals fans, if you were thinking like, no, this is Isaiah Simmons again, Isaiah Simmons literally didn't have a position. Sonny Styles plays linebacker, and he has for 2 straight years. Like, he is a linebacker. So, you might think it's too high. Sonny Styles is the top player on my board. I'm just like, I am over the moon about Styles. I don't see a hole in his game, and I don't know how I can't call him a blue chip prospect if I don't see a hole in his game. So
Isn't he also really young?
he's only
Like,
20. 20. Yeah, he's 20.
yeah,
He'll be
he's
21 when he's
also
drafted.
really young, and those are the type of players that you're willing to make bets on. And not only is he young, but like you said, he's played linebacker for 2 years. This has been a constant uptick in development. We talk a lot about how like you sort of are wary of players who just go from bad, 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 boom, fourth year, like senior, super senior breakout. You're wary of those guys. But Sonny Styles has consistently grown. And I think with the way the NFL is trending back to heavier personnel, I mean, we're recording this Monday night after the Steelers mashed the Dolphins with 6 offensive linemen, 7 if you count Darnell Washington. You need
Basically, yeah.
big, yeah, you need bigger linebackers, you need bigger body types on the field. And that's something the Cardinals have missed. They're just not big. And I think Sonny Styles not only combines just the elite size and measurables, but he actually is physical and wants to hit people in the mouth.
Yeah, love it. All right, New Orleans Saints here.
Oh man. Um I'm trending maybe receiver, but I mean spending another high pick on receiver would be a little fun. If you're just looking at what the Saints want to be and what they want to do in terms of they play 5 out, they don't help their tackles, they want to get Tyler Shuck the ball out of his hands quickly, but they're not explosive. You're looking for guys that are a little bit explosive, a little bit of juice. I'm talking myself into it, so I'm gonna do it. Give him Makai Lemon. I
Ooh,
it's
8th or 7th overall, Mekhi Lemon.
it's it's a little bit redundant size wise with Olave, but I love just we talk about professional quarterbacks with Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore. Makai Lemon is a professional receiver. He's not going to be the biggest, strongest, fastest. He knows how to get open, super strong after the catch. They need that explosiveness in that offense. They don't create explosive plays, but Tyler Shuck keeps them on schedule. And if you're going to be on schedule all the time, you need someone who can create some juice. And I think Lemon can do that.
Love it. Okay. So I can't stop thinking about Dan Quinn's time in Dallas and getting the most out of like these down safeties and like Micah Parsons, who has a hybrid linebacker edge rusher skill set. Now he's the full-time edge, right? But like coming into the league, he played a lot of second level stuff. So I'm drafting one of these two Ohio State guys at the top of
Yeah.
the board here. But I don't know which one I want to do here. My board would say take Arvell Reese, and positional value would probably say take Arvell Reese as well. So I'm probably going to take Arvell Reese here. Commanders need all the defensive help they can get. Let's get some juice off the edge here. Let's go juice off the edge.
He's
It's a really good safety class. So let's go Arvell Reese, second level juice off the edge. Whatever you want to do with them.
he's just such a cool player. Like there are guys that like I don't know where you play him. I don't know where any team wants to play him. Just get him on the field because he's such a cool athlete. Like you don't see a lot of guys that even if you want to play him as like a spinner on third down and just have him spy quarterbacks. Think about the quarterbacks that Washington has to play in their division. Jackson Dart, who is a scrambler, Jalen Hurts. You have to play Dak Prescott twice a year. Like all those guys can use their legs. It's time to go get some speed and some juice on a defense that's kind of aging out of that. So they need all the help they can get back there.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. The Bengals are one of the hardest teams, I think, to mock for.
They have so many needs
Yeah.
everywhere, but also they have like three of the best, like they have the best collection of top end skill position talent, but need help everywhere else. I think I'm gonna go Caleb Downs here. They just need some. The Bengals miss so many tackles. Like if you watch the Bengals, they don't tackle well. They've never tackled well since since the last years of Lou Anarumo and this year with Al Golden as defensive coordinator. They don't tackle well. They're not physical. And one thing Caleb Downs does really well is he wraps up and tackles. You can play him down close to the line of scrimmage. You can have him be a spy on quarterbacks. You can have him playing deep. I just think he's such a smart and versatile football player that you will find a role for him in the NFL. And I just think that he just adds so much to a secondary that, I mean, you got DJ Turner, who's fun, who's a good corner. You add Caleb Downs, you got 2 of your 4 secondary spots on lock.
Yep. That secondary is rough, collectively as a whole. So, yeah, I think adding a piece in there that can be a solid communicator and maybe a stabilizer is the right move. The Rams, I continue to think that Lenore Sellers would have declared this year he'd go to the Rams. Like to me, like that's the ultimate like McVay pick and sit. But he's going back to school, so we'll hold Lenore Sellers off the board here. Their corners are bad, with Emmanuel Forbes and Darius Williams here. Darius is fine for who he is, but at his age, they definitely need something else here. They also need an offensive tackle, and you know, Spencer Fano is 10 on my board, and so this feels like a good place to maybe draft Spencer Fano. Would they go from a 6'8" Havenstein to a 5 foot or 6'4", 300-pound right tackle? Though is what I'm fighting internally as well here. You know,
I'm curious if Fano fits what the Rams want to do now offensively.
Yeah.
With all the duo and the gap scheme stuff that they run, I'm curious if Fano is a fit now. because if Fano had come around like 2018, 2019, I think that would have been perfect.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna stick to my board here. My number 3 player is Drummond McCoy. Coming into the season, my number 3 player was Drummond McCoy. I didn't change his grade. His grade still equates to the number 3 player in this class. I don't have new information. Why would I change my grade? So I still have him third. I know he hasn't played football all year. First corner off the board should be Drummond McCoy still, in my opinion. Tennessee corner. Tore his ACL in January. Probably could have played this year. It takes a lot of confidence to want to break off of a torn ACL though, so I get not like maybe slow playing off of like not wanting to cut or not wanting to break until you feel 100% confident in your body. I'm taking him 10th overall here to the Rams.
He's rock solid. And I
Mhm.
had this conversation with my co-host on Pushing the Pile a couple weeks ago of he had Jermon McCoy out of the top 10, and I'm curious if the injury would knock him down, because even before injury, he was shut down. He was one of the best
Mhm.
players in this class. I don't think the injury should, even though he didn't play this season, because he's just that talented. And if he runs well off the injury, he's probably even still going to have a top 10 spot on lock.
I think so. His 2024 tape is so good. And it's not like this is a Caleb Farley situation where he legitimately had a degenerative back. Like this is an ACL tear. ACL technology has come so long. These guys come back in like 7 to 8 months. So, yeah, I'm still sold on McCoy.
Oh my gosh. The Dolphins here at 11. There are so many ways I could go with this, but I feel like the most rational thing, I think this is where Fano goes. In terms
Mm.
of the athleticism, the body types that the Dolphins covet on the interior of the offensive line. If you think about Aaron Brewer at center, the movement skills that they require as sort of the wides, like the premier, like wide zone team and designer stuff to get their linemen in space. I think Fano goes here, and you play him at guard. You could play him at right tackle if you just don't think Austin Jackson's going to be it moving forward. But I think you slide him in at either guard spot, and Patrick Paul, Fano, Aaron Brewer, you're good. You don't have to worry about that.
I do love Fano's movement skills, man. He's so smooth. Uh, and his knee bend lets him play with such a natural pad level. I love the fit there. And I think McDaniels has probably done enough to earn another year. We'll see if they collapse down the stretch here. Tonight wasn't a great showing as we record this on a Monday night. But all right, the Chiefs, 12th overall. To me, this is an easy fit. Outside of Chris Jones, their interior defensive line is abysmal. Abysmal. I haven't loved Peter Woods' tape in 2025. I
Yeah.
think that, week 5, Clemson was eliminated from any sort of contention of anything. And I think you can kind of tell with Woods' motor and maybe desire to keep playing college football maybe popped up a little bit. But I think you get this guy in a winning culture. The Chiefs are in a position where they're gonna pick high because of the Mahomes injury. Like they might even pick higher than 12th by the time April rolls around. I think this is a clean fit for Peter Woods. Get him to buy into a winning culture in Kansas City. There are a bunch of different directions I could have gone here. I could have got real wacky with a wide receiver here if I really wanted to. One specific wide receiver that I like held back from doing. But we're gonna go Peter Woods to the Chiefs here.
I just think it makes so much sense with Omar Norman Lott coming off the torn ACL. Chris Jones also not losing, he's losing a step age wise. I think Peter Woods, we've talked about it. The 2025 season has been rough for him. I just didn't see the consistent
Mhm.
flashes of play that we saw in 2024. But when he combines the power and the physicality, I think he's still a force. But like you said, getting him to buy in will be the biggest thing.
Mhm. Vikings are an odd team too here. This is a fun team to kind of mock for you. So I envy you a little bit.
All right. I'm kind of thinking we get a little nuts here. I haven't really been enthralled with the injury history of Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones. And with the way that JJ McCarthy has sort of played, he's at his best when the run game is really firing. Screw it. Let's do Jeremiah Love here.
Let's do it. I love it.
I I freaking love this guy. It's just so fun watching him play. because I just think the foot quickness, the acceleration, I think he's going to instantly provide that juice that the run game has missed. Aaron Jones provides it sort of as a receiver. Jordan Mason's sort of like the hammer as a runner,
Mhm.
but nobody has the juice. Nobody has that explosiveness. And I think Jeremiah Love would bring that to an offense that if JJ McCarthy is still going to be your quarterback, you need that explosiveness from your run game.
Agreed. He's ungodly explosive and creative, man. His creativity at the second level is so much fun to watch. How he finds creases and exploits them, and how he chooses to do so. Hurdling, spinning, all of the above. It's just so much fun. The Cowboys pick here, I think this is pretty easy how the board fell. I'm not in love with Keldrick Falk's tape. I think he's maybe a little bit stiff in the ankles, doesn't take the outside track super well, but a super young player. And when we're looking at those top two edges right there between Keldrick Falk, David Bailey, Jerry Jones has stated, "Well, I want to defend the run, and if that's your mo and that's what you're going for, you're not drafting David Bailey." Uh, so and that's one thing that as much as I think that Keldrick Falk is very raw, and I don't know how much upside there is in terms of like how much can he continue to fire out into his frame and become a developed pass rusher. He's going to be a really good run defender who can condense down even to three tech to play into five tech, three tech, even some nose reps he's put on tape. When you're looking at Jadeveon Clowney too, I don't know if he's bound for that 2026 roster. So you need some sort of stout edge setter, big end. If you want a run defender, this is your guy. So we're gonna go Keldrick Falk to the Cowboys right here.
I think I'm still a little higher on Keldrick Falk than a lot of people have been after 2025. I still think he can be a very good player. I just think he's not a first step guy, and that's partially because of the defense Auburn played in, but he also just has terrible snap timing. But he's incredibly young, freakishly long arms, big
Yeah.
hands. In a lot of ways, he's sort of similar to guys like Greg Rousseau, who come out really young, and you just get him into a defensive line room where he's not really asked to be the guy that wins with juice as a pass rusher. That's what you have Quentin Williams and Osa Digidua for. If he just is a run defender and a looper and a crasher on pass rush games, that's a serviceable player to me.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So Baltimore Ravens, where are we going here?
I have said all season that the Ravens are kind of soft on both lines of scrimmage. And I'm leaning two players here. I'm either thinking Magnoa from Miami, or I'm going interior defensive line, given the way that the conversation has gone with Namdi Madubuike and his injury.
Yeah.
But I sort of think the priority here should be protecting Lamar Jackson, especially off of injury, giving Magnoa here, and you play him at guard. I
Mhm.
sort of think Magnoa's headed for guard in the NFL anyway. I think
Yep.
he's just he's wide. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but he just fills up space in a phone booth. And he has knockout power in a phone booth. When Miami needs big plays, they run duo behind Magnoa because they know he's going to move people. I'm sort of worried about his movement in space, but the Ravens need some physicality. They need an edge. They need their edge back. And I think Noah is going to give them that nastiness.
Yeah, my big thing with Moinoa is like I think he's at his worst when you force him to strain wide or vertical. So you take away that set depth and you let him just maul people. I love the fit. I love the fit. Panthers here. Um, I don't know if they draft an edge after drafting 2 in the second round last year. Um, they could go guard as well. I don't love the value of guard at 16 here. Maybe I would have it with Moinoa if they would have been there. Vega Ioane is a fine player. I do think I see some balance issues in the run game a little bit, and I don't know if I would take him top 20. I'm kind of obsessed with maybe linebacker right here. Thinking
Ooh,
about
yeah.
it. Thinking about, ooh, actually, I'm going to go corner because how much longer can you start Mike Jackson opposite of JC Horn? Um, and I'm going to give them another physical press man corner here. Who I think is probably the strongest corner in the class. I think he's explosive transitional with his transitional burst and recovery speed as well. So I think he'd be a great fit in Carolina's scheme here. And I'm going to give him Colton Hood, who is my
Ooh.
CB2 behind Jermon McCoy. I love Colton Hood. I think he's tremendous. So we're going to go Colton Hood to the Panthers there.
So I'm gonna get around to Colton Hood later this week. I'm gonna start watching more of the secondary. I started watching defensive line this draft season, but physicality. They love the big,
Mhm.
long physical corners in Carolina with the way that JC Horn has played this season. And I just think getting another quality second guy, you just like you said, they drafted two young edges
Mhm.
this past season. Like you're hoping for consistent growth from them. So you got to address that secondary.
Yeah, agreed. And you can't go wrong. Like, I like Mansour Delane. I like Avion Terrell. I just like Colton Hood more. So,
Oh man, this is another tough one with Detroit at 17 because I think they like their interior offensive line. They've just been hurt and just injured to
mhm.
hell this season with Mahogany out. They've missed Glasgow at times. They're starting Kyle Awosika at left guard. So I'm gonna hold off on guard. But I also am a little wary of drafting a designated just a DPR at 17.
Mhm.
It's it's tough. It
Yeah.
is really tough at this point. I think this is a really good spot for David Bailey because he doesn't have to play on early downs.
Mhm.
I think he doesn't have to be a run defender with with Hutchinson on the edge and then Marcus Davenport also, and they play Derek Barnes as sort of their edge in the run game as well, but they need some juice and on in that edge room. So I'm gonna go David Bailey here. I I'm still hesitant with
Yeah.
Bailey when it comes to just being like a surefire lock as like a legit first round guy, but he gets speed. He's a very quick and first off the ball pass rusher, and that's something that the Lions really need.
Yeah, I agree. You could go left tackle there too, but again, I'm not really obsessed with this tackle class, so I don't I don't hate it at all. The Giants are back up via the New York Jets via the Indianapolis Colts here after we traded up with the Jets and down with the Giants. They got both those first round picks. We just drafted wide receiver Jordan Tyson to them earlier. Again, right tackle is a need, so we could go. Boy, Blake Miller, but that's really early for Blake Miller. I don't love the tackles here, and especially I don't love kicking them opposite sides. So, like, if I were just going to take a tackle, I'd take Caleb Loman and be like, "Oh, I could just play right tackle." I'm not so sure I want to do that. Which brings me to corner because the Deontay Banks thing hasn't really worked out for him. Um, and if I'm going based off of my board, which I'm going to do in these mock drafts, that would lead me to Avion Terrell, who I have a microscopic razor thin grade over Mansour Delane from. So we're gonna go Avion Terrell to the Giants here.
Avion Terrell is one of my favorite players in this draft class. Just all like when we talk about like dog in him,
Mhm.
Avion Terrell has zero fear as a
Yep.
corner. He's going to stick his nose in the run game. He's going to try and force fumbles. I believe he forced 5 fumbles this
He
season.
has.
He plays aggressive through the catch point. I love him and I love watching him play.
Yeah, he's got slot outside versatility, and if you drop him this high, you're probably not gonna play him in the slot a whole bunch. I mean, you might. Trent McDuffie's made a living; he's gonna get paid doing that. But yeah, Avion Terrell's tremendous, and he's twitchy. He's so twitched up too. So there's a
Mhm.
lot to love about Avion Terrell.
This is sort of I think this was pretty obvious for me. I'm going to go linebacker here for Tampa.
Okay,
And the linebacker I want here, I'm
is it
gonna
who I
go.
think it is?
I'm gonna go CJ Allen. I
Okay.
I love CJ Allen. I still think there's a little bit of questions I have as a pass coverage guy,
Hmm.
but when you talk physicality, when you talk like Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker with the way that Levante David is sort of he's still good, but he's aging out of that role. Servassier Dennis has just not been it this season. I love CJ Allen. I think he is a physical player, especially coming into the league at the right time. We talk about needing physicality. I think CJ Allen's gonna be a first round, and I like the fit in Tampa.
Yeah, I have another linebacker ahead of him. I don't even know if he's in this mock draft simulator. I have to go back and check that. But um, CJ Allen just he's going to go first round, so I don't hate it at all. The Steelers here, man. So quarterback feels like a fun thing to do. I know that there are people in the building who really like Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby just entered the transfer portal and is kind of weighing his options between NFL and transferring. There's also the news about Darian Mensah potentially wanting to declare in this year's draft as well. I've watched 4 games of Darian Mensah. I think he needs to go back to school. I don't see first round tools, so I'm probably going to punt on quarterback just for the sanctity of this mock draft. What they do then though is interesting. DK's under contract at wide receiver. Outside of that, it's they've been in the Ayuk conversation. Maybe they go out and get a guy like Ayuk. Who knows? If they go wide receiver, I've got a wild card up my sleeve that I'm going to throw out there.
Oh boy,
Their secondary is also Unk Nation, and so they could definitely go corner here. And I think Mansour Delane would be a decent scheme fit for them. Yeah, let's go Delane. I'll keep my ace up my sleeve for a little bit longer. It's not really an ace up my sleeve. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows it's Omarion Miller, but we're gonna go Mansour Delane here to the Steelers.
I love Mansour Delane. I think he is just watching him on tape and the man coverage skills. I think that his eyes are really good in coverage, and again, he's grown as his career has gone on from Virginia Tech to LSU. And that again, that constant uptick of good play, I think that's going to get him in the first round. But I do see a really nice fit here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and again, like I my biggest issue with Mansour Delane is I his ability to turn and run, I think, is just average. Like I don't see the elite recovery speed. But Pittsburgh runs a lot of zone, so I don't know if that's necessarily something he's going to be asked to do a whole bunch. So brings up Philadelphia.
Well, I was hoping that you would go with your ace up your sleeve at 20 so I could move Delane to 21. And you're not picking quarterback. So I'm really curious on what Philadelphia does here because they have an obvious need at corner, second corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. I think they like DeJean playing on the outside, but I think they love having DeJean as a nickel. And I think they really want to keep him at nickel. I could also see them going for a guard here because of the way that Tyler Steen has sort of just not been it at right guard. Give me Vega Owane from Penn State. Okay. I think that it just with all of the money they have invested on the offensive side of the ball, they cannot be bad on the offensive line again. They can't keep going through the same issues that they have on the offensive line, especially at guard. So I think just getting another first round pick, another talented kid in there to push, Tyler Steen out, or you have a guy that you can immediately start at right guard.
Yep. And Vega Iwane would be a great fit in that scheme as well, especially in pass protection. He's an animal in a phone booth, so I like the fit there with the Eagles. The Texans, it just feels like why wouldn't I just mock a left tackle here every single time? Like it's just like this is just take a left tackle. And if we're going off my board here, Caden Proctor's 35. I don't love Caden Proctor's tape. And there isn't another left tackle because Austin Searveld's a guard, and I think he's probably going back to Ohio State anyway. But he's also like 40 something on my board. Caleb Tiernan. I don't know what to do with the guy who's 6'7" with 32-inch arms and built like a T-Rex. I don't know what to do with a player like that. So we're gonna go Caleb Lomu, best player on my board. Drafting him here to the Texans.
I'm actually a fan of Caleb Lomu. I think the movement skills, the athleticism, I really like it. He struggled with the Texas Tech pass rushers, who didn't this season, but I just think that getting him with the Texans, I think moving Ursary to right tackle, which he's more of a fit there, you just have some athleticism at those spots. And they just need to throw bodies at the offensive line until it fixes itself.
Right, which is what they've done. They've tried to do with like a bunch of 1-year deals and of veterans and weird trades. But all right, that brings the Cowboys back up here with the Packers pick.
Oh man. All right. So we gave them the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Their linebacker room still awful. It's still horrible. I don't really like a lot of the corners first round wise at this
Mm-hmm.
stage, especially with Delane off the board. I think this linebacker class rules. Oh goodness. I'm I'm really thinking
I don't
I
even. He's not even in the simulator.
is he not in the simulator?
No, he's not. I know who you're thinking about because it's I love him, and he's not in the simulator. He's got a
That's
teammate in the
crazy.
simulator, but he's not in the simulator.
That's crazy. I think Josiah Trotter as a Cowboy would be like the Jerry Jones, like, okay, fine, Jerry, you got it. You
Yeah.
you did it, man. He's so good. He
You
is
can't keep trotting Kenneth Murray back out there, man.
no, you can't keep trying Kenneth Murray out there. Logan Wilson is old and has played like he's old. You need somebody out there next to Overshawn. And I think that Josiah Trotter, he plays more like his he plays
Yeah,
like his dad and in a good way. I just think Josiah Trotter here, and you immediately solidify two of your biggest issues on defense if you're the Cowboys.
agreed. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube here, Tristan Newsome is Josiah Trotter. So that's that there. All right, the Buffalo Bills, and this is where Omarion Miller is going to come off the board for me. I love Omarion Miller, dude. I don't know what he's thinking. But he doesn't have an agent, so like nobody knows what he's thinking in terms of what's next step for him. And also kind of questions how is he getting feedback from anybody outside of Colorado? And Colorado's probably just telling him to come back to school. He's not ready. Um, Omarion Miller is the wide receiver 4 on my board, number 20 on my board. He's not even in the simulator because I just did this last week too. So we're gonna go to the last receiver, DT Sheffield here. So DT Sheffield is Omarion Miller in this mock draft simulator, but Buffalo needs a freaking wide receiver, dude, and one that can get open vertically for Josh Allen. And Omarion Miller, I think, is that guy. So we're gonna go Omarion Miller to the Buffalo Bills.
Just the juice. And the Bills they need juice vertically. Like you could say like they need speed, and a lot of people will reply, well, they have Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir runs fast. And it's like, no, that's not the speed we're talking about. They run fast horizontally.
You need
That
somebody who can step on some toes down the field. Yeah.
Yeah, you need somebody who actually can get downfield in a hurry. And Amarion Miller's got that in bunches. And I think of, the Bills wanting to be connected to Rashid Shaheed in trade talks. And I think that's sort of what you can get year one out of Amarion Miller, just the speed and the explosiveness downfield.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And he's such a ball winner at the catch point too, man. There's so much to love about Omarion Miller.
All right. 25. I'm going to go full daft on draft here with defensive tackle. I'm going Amari Washington.
I love Amari Washington, man.
I'm going full daft on draft here. I watched him after you put him in your big board, and I was like, okay, I see it. The Washington game, I was like, all right, I have seen enough. The power and the violence that he plays with is just like, all right, that is an NFL defensive tackle. I think the Bears need another pass rusher, but they just need some more juice along that defensive line. And Washington's going to give them some violence in the run game, pass game. I considered Caleb Banks here because I love Caleb Banks and what he brings to a defense. I am a little worried about the age plus injury knocking him down the board.
Yeah, so he's only 22. That's been I don't know, for some reason they keep people like his online age is 24, but he's only 22. So it is a little bit better, but that's going to bring me to the Chargers here. And it just feels like Jim Harbaugh's going to keep taking trench players until this thing's figured out. Like it just like he's going to keep taking like either offensive linemen or defensive linemen. Mekhi Becton hasn't worked out free agents wise. Bradley Bozeman is not an answer. They're injured all the way up front. Defensively, at defensive tackle, we'd be talking about the player I'm thinking about here as, a 3-tech to maybe even potentially 5-tech. So Deshaun Hand and Tier Tart are the players we're talking about there right now for Los Angeles, which is like rough. I think what this is going to come down to, dude, is that I just don't love these offensive tackles here on this board right now, or even guards. We could go to guard. And again, the highest player ranked on my board, still on the board right now, well, it would be Kenyon Sadiq, but they're not taking a tight end, is Caleb Banks. So I think you could play him at 3, play him at 5, get a lot out of him. Ungodly explosive, really refined pass rush plan with his hands. So we're going to go Caleb Banks to the Chargers.
The LSU tape last year is the elevator pitch for Caleb Banks. Just dominant and explosive at that size, that length. You think of everything that they want to be in terms of pocket pushers on the outside and Banks winning from the inside. That sounds like a game-wrecking defensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse Minter, there you go, buddy.
The Niners here, Jawan Jennings gonna hit free agency. I don't think he wants to be there. Brandon Ayuk, almost certainly gone. I really love Denzel Boston. I don't know if he is the best fit in San Francisco. And I'm considering Concepcion or Chris Bell. I think I'm going to go KC Concepcion here. Just ungodly levels of juice with the ball in his hands. I think that's the thing that sells me in this offense. You think about just the explosiveness when he has the ball and the immediate ability to get upfield. And that's something that the Niners have obviously prioritized under Kyle Shanahan, where he's taken this offense. And they need that, especially with Christian McCaffrey sort of, you don't know when he's going to start wearing down and how all that, those yak opportunities are going to start to wear down with him. So Concepcion here meshes really well with Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, I agree. I hate the board right here for the Browns at 28. I absolutely hate it. They obviously need an offensive tackle. This would be a good Caleb Lomu spot if Caleb Lomu was on the board, and he's not. I'm not taking any of these guys first round. Caden Proctor terrifies me, especially in a scheme like Cleveland wants to run. I don't see that as a fit. None of these guys, like Jennings Dunker, I understand why people like him. Like, to me, that's a day 3 player. Not going first round. Caleb Tiernan, same thing. Day 3 player to me. Blake Miller, day 2 player. Really athletic. So, like, if there was an offensive tackle that the Browns would take here, I think it would be Blake Miller just because he's got the athletic traits. Blake Miller, however, is 44 on my board. Caden Proctor's 35 on my board. I don't love this board. There's a part of me that just wants to double up at wide receiver because the wide receiver room is that stinking bad. There's also a part of me that says, like, David Njoku is a free agent, and could they pair Sadiq and Harold Fannin together? You have kind of an F and an H, but neither of them are really great inline guys. So I think Sadiq can throw his weight around a little bit, but he's not like a super refined inline guy. This is a nightmare scenario for the Browns, to be honest. I don't love any of these edge. Like, the Browns won't be obsessed with Cassius Howell at edge because of his size. Man, I could get really funky and just double up a wide receiver.
That would be fun.
It would be fun. Do you know what? Let's do it. Let's go Kenyon Sadiq here.
Ooh.
And let's go Kenyon Sadiq, Harold Fannin Jr. You got your... Kenyon Sadiq can play in line. He can. I've seen some really good blocking tape out there from him. But you have an F and an H that you can do a whole lot with there with Sadiq and Harold Fannin. So we're gonna go Kenyon Sadiq.
Build the entire room
12 personnel.
out of yards after the catch.
Yeah,
12 personnel, just straight yak it up.
Just get pass catchers. Just get playmakers. They don't have any outside of Harold Fannin. Like, that's their entire offense right now is built out of Harold Fannin. You can't do that.
Look, Harold Fannin and Kenyon Sadiq would immediately become like sicko, like must see television. All the draft nerds, film nerds, gonna love watching it.
Now you need to go get probably an ass kicker for a tight end 3 at this point too, like a Will Kazmarek from Ohio State or something like that to throw in that room. But this is a lot of fun.
Like,
Let's
yeah,
have some fun.
if you're gonna lean into the like, we might not be good for a couple of years, at least be fun.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's the least you can do.
I don't love. I'm not reaching on an offensive tackle who you're just gonna get mad at me when he stinks day one and you throw him out there. Let's have some fun. So yeah.
Man, I really do not like the board here for the Patriots. You come to the same conclusion as you did with the Browns here. Don't like any of the tackles. Don't like any of the guards. You don't really like the edge class, considering what the Patriots like to do and want to be. They might keep Caleb Von Chison around, which, as a Jaguars fan, sure, like I didn't think that would happen. Um, you know, I'm gonna go Denzel Boston here.
Okay.
I'm gonna give Drake May another receiver target, and I love Denzel Boston because of the ability to win above the rim. And
Mhm.
you think of how Drake May has worked with Kayshon Boutte this season in terms of being the sideline guy, the contested catch situation, and then what Mac Hollins does in terms of downfield contested catches. I think Denzel Boston can do that. Mac Hollins is a little more expendable. So you have youth in that receiver room that can grow with your young quarterback.
Agreed. Agreed. Diggs is kind of getting up there too. So yeah, go get that guy. Go get that guy. Seahawks here. So there's a part of me that wants to like look at the wide receivers because DK left, obviously. Jackson Smith and Jigba is great, but like pairing him with an X, like a dominant ball winner sounds fun, but there's just not one on the board that I feel comfortable taking in the first round right here. Maybe they could go guard back to back years, because they are still starting Anthony Bradford at right
Say
guard.
Anthony Bradford might force their hand.
Yeah. Anthony Bradford might force their hand. Corners, I don't love the corners here first round wise either. I'm lower on Brandon Cisse than consensus is. So yeah, let's take a look at the guards here. I guess tackles converted to guard as well. Like I could talk myself into Caden Proctor as a guard. Still don't necessarily love that as much as a natural guard. Is he in here? Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Let's roll with Chase Bazantis here. Texas A&M guard Chase Bazantis to the Seattle Seahawks, who I have said in terms of just strict pass pro might be the best pass protector in the class. Now, the run game gets out over his skis a little bit, needs some work there, but in terms of the hands, the anchor, this guy's an elite pass protector. So, Chase Bazantis, Texas A&M to the Seahawks here.
And again, you just need somebody that can just be someone in front of a defensive lineman in place of Anthony Bradford.
Yes.
Like, he's unequivocally been one of the worst football players in the league this season. So getting Basantis, who again just is a refined pass protector, that'll make the offense even more explosive. You don't have to worry about pressure with Sam Darnold. It makes a lot of sense here for Seattle.
Yeah, agreed.
And we're back up with the Rams here.
Now you got the Broncos, my friend.
The Broncos. We got the Broncos here. The
Wait a
Broncos.
second. No, it is the Rams. I got it wrong on PFF Simulator. So
Okay.
we'll flip it. Yeah, it's the Rams. You're right.
Okay. Rams here at 31. We already had them taking a corner in McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like the tackle class here.
Oh.
Don't like tackle class here. I don't really like any of the linebackers here, given how the class is starting to shake out, especially after the Styles Trotter range. Oh gosh. This is a little interesting at this point because you don't really have a lot of faith in the linebacker group. You really have to focus a lot on like the line. I think I'm going to go secondary. I think I'm going to go safety here.
Okay.
I like Kamari Ramsey. I don't think Kamari Ramsey's a round one guy though.
Mm-mm.
This is really where the draft will start to get interesting towards the end.
Yeah, do they just go BPA and just like
I
take Cade McDonald or something like that? Like it's
I think
bizarre.
that I think they might have to just go BPA. I really like Caden McDonald and just create like the hockey lines of defensive linemen. You know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go Caden McDonald here. Like
Just
screw it. Make a strength even stronger.
get a big dude in there.
And again, just the physicality and the run defense that Caden McDonald brings with the way that they
Mhm.
have the dudes up front with their pass rush. If you can keep those guys fresh for third downs and obvious pass situations, it's going to make the defense a whole lot better. You think about, and I'm not saying they are the same caliber of player, but you're talking about like what Jordan Davis allows for the rest of the Eagles to be on early downs. They can turn up their pass rush by just not being on the field on early downs. So I'm going to go McDonald here and just make a strength stronger.
Let's roll with it. And that brings us to the Broncos here. And like I'm just scrolling to see if there's a name that like sticks out to me. It's like, oh, that'd be fun. Because yeah, man. I don't know what to do here. I think that they would like some sort of like Joker. And maybe at 32, you feel comfortable taking Chris Bell, knowing that he just tore his ACL. Again, ACL recovery, he could be back by preseason. He could be back by week one with an ACL tear. So, like, Chris Bell would be a lot of fun in that offense because they don't really have that guy who can house a slant or house a shallow cross the way that Chris Bell can. Like, go watch the Miami game and watch him catch a shallow cross. And Chris Bell is also really physical off the line of scrimmage, and he's developed some play strength at the catch point, which I thought was his biggest weakness coming into the season. It's like, dude, you're 227 pounds. Why aren't you winning more? Like with physicality, I think that he started to step that up. I think the best move of action here for the Broncos is to go get that Sean Payton Joker kind of player. Thought it would. I think they thought it would be Evan Ingram. It hasn't been Evan Ingram. So let's go get Chris Bell here. And even if you got to sit him, if you like redshirt him until October, you still got a really good receiver here. So we're gonna go Chris Bell to the Broncos at 32.
I really like it. I think that Chris Bell adds a certain level of explosiveness to the offense that they don't really have. If you watch the Broncos this season, a lot of their manufactured like designer passing stuff is to RJ Harvey or Troy Franklin as a yak guy. And Troy Franklin is not that caliber of player. He is not a guy that you want to use his speed to try and make people miss. Chris Bell is a guy that you can have do that. I think he can, like you said, he's taking a slant, shallow cross, 50 yards to the house. And the fact that you can slow play him along to until the middle of the season, if there's one coordinator, one offensive mind, I think we'll get the most out of him. I think it's Sean Payton.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, both they're two explosive wide receivers are both very stiff. So I think that's a great point. That Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, they're great if you just let them run in a straight line really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't really have that guy. So I think it's an ideal fit too here. So going back through this here, we had the Jets trading up to number 1 for Fernando Mendoza. The Raiders taking Dante Moore at 2. Titans taking Ruben Bain at 3. The Browns quarterback list taking Carnell Tate at 4. The Giants trading back from 1 to 5, taking Jordan Tyson. Cardinals taking Sonny Styles. Saints taking Mekhi Lemon. Commanders taking Arvell Reese. Bengals taking Caleb Downs. The Rams taking Jermod McCoy. Spencer Fano to the Miami Dolphins. Peter Woods to the Chiefs. Jeremiah Love to the Vikings. Keldrick Falk to the Cowboys. The Ravens taking CeCe Moinoa. Panthers taking Colton Hood. Lions taking David Bailey. Giants with the Jets' second pick here taking Avion Terrell. The Buccaneers taking CJ Allen. The Pittsburgh Steelers taking Mansour Delane. Eagles taking Vega Ioane. The Texans taking Caleb Lomu. Dallas Cowboys taking Josiah Trotter. That is not Josiah Trotter on the simulator, but that is Josiah Trotter. The Buffalo Bills taking Omarion Hampton, 24th. Again, DT Sheffield is not
Omarion
Omarion
Miller.
Hampton. Or
Omarion Miller.
Omarion Miller. Yes, I do that every freaking time. Omarion Miller, Colorado wide receiver. The Chicago Bears taking Amari Washington. Chargers taking Caleb Banks. 49ers taking Casey Concepcion. The Browns getting spicy with it and taking Kenyon Sadiq to pair with in 12 personnel. The Patriots taking Denzel Boston. The Seahawks taking Chase Bizantis. The Rams, that's flipped there. The Rams are taking Cade McDonald, and the Broncos are taking Chris Bell. JP, what is your favorite fit / pick here of this entire mock draft?
Honestly, I really like Casey Concepcion in San Francisco.
It's
Like
nice.
just the immediate yards after the catch boost that's going to give them.
Yeah.
And you just keep adding strength and keep adding to what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. And Kyle Shanahan quietly has had like one of his best coaching seasons this year while having Mac Jones throwing to Kendrick Bourne 500 times. So getting somebody in there with a lot of athleticism that can turn short plays into explosives, I think I love that for San Francisco.
Yeah, for me, from a value perspective, it's got to be Amari Washington to the Bears. I think Amari Washington is tremendous, dude. Again, I thought watching tape this year, like I won't find another tape as dominant as Arvell Reese versus Illinois, where he's literally just ragdolling tight ends trying to solo block him and offensive linemen. And then I watched the Washington game, the Oregon Washington game, and Amari Washington is just straight through the chest of anybody. And he's disruptive. He's destructive with his hands, heavy hands, twitchy hands. It's like, yeah, this guy's good. So I'd say that one's probably mine just from a value perspective. A pretty phenomenal fit there. So, all right. Well, thanks, JP, for hopping on. We're at an hour, like on the dot. So, thanks, JP, again for filling in. It's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. See ya.